roll call shows that all counselors are here. We have a bunch of people that are both signed on Zoom-wise and here in person. So thank you to everybody who showed up. Someone else is here too. Consent agenda. We have typical 3 things on the consent agenda. This meeting's agenda, previous meeting minutes, and the approval of bills. So unless someone would like to add anything to the agenda or pull something for consideration, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I would so move.
The motion?
I do want to talk about that email we got in, all came into our city email addresses with the...
Are we just going to skip open forum?
Oh.
After the consent agenda?
Oh, yeah. I totally skipped that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Am I doing this backwards?
I'm
No.
doing this backwards.
No.
I jumped over the
Oh.
open forum, which is a pretty important part of the meeting tonight. So
Yeah,
please,
yeah, just...
can you
Yes.
pull your
I
motion
will
for now, and then we'll
pull my
we'll go
motion back.
All right, cool. That will give you also time to
Yes.
present what we're doing here. Okay, open forum.
Okay.
So we do have some people here. For people who are on virtually, I assume we'll just do the hand call, the raise hand feature. Is that something that we can do in Google Meetings? Patrick, is that something we can do?
I don't think so. I think someone has to talk and then they'll be brought up. So if we can try to coordinate that the best we can.
Okay, if we have people, well, then probably visibly you'll have to raise your hand, and then we'll call on you up there, and then we have people in person too. I don't know if you guys want to speak for the open forum, or if you just want to speak for the part on the agenda. So, okay, cool. So then it's all you guys. So if you'd like to speak in the open forum, then go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll call on as many people as we can see. So, does anybody want to say anything for open forum? If you don't, that's totally fine too. You can certainly listen. Okay, go ahead, Patrick. You can see him better than I can, probably.
We'll start with Carl.
All right, Carl, you can go first. Introduce yourself, and then share unmute yourself, obviously, and then share your thoughts.
Hope the dogs don't bark. So my name is Carl Hansen, and I have rowdy dogs. And I was on the Grand Marais Public Utilities Commission for 6 years, ending in 2019, I think, or 20. And I have this clear memory of these 2 incredible young women, Olia and Naomi, coming before us and getting a climate bill of rights approved because they said that they have a right to have a reasonable place to live as older people. And at 74, I'm not too concerned about me surviving, but at their age, they are. And now here they are. So 2013, the city passed a sustainability plan, and here they are some years later. It's not fair to say the city hasn't done anything, but I certainly think a climate emergency is the lens through which they should be taking all decisions going forward.
All right, thank you. Who's next? I saw Denny had his hand up. You still have your hand up, Denny? All right, go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Hey, this is a nice system working well. Thank you so much. Just wanted to add my support to Oli and Naomi's initiative. Yes, the city's been doing a lot of good things for climate and will continue to do so. As specific steps would be nice. And just on behalf of, I'm a group leader for Arrowhead Indivisible. There's 200 members, so there's at least 200 other people I know that are very supportive of their idea to issue a climate emergency because there's just no planet B, and we just support the effort so much. And thank you for all you're doing and for all you continue to do. That's really, I just wanted to chip in my support. Thanks.
Thanks, Denny. Anybody else? Raise your hand if you're visible.
Gina, you can go ahead.
I'm Gina Macy, and I live here in Grand Marais, and I am in full support of this climate emergency.
All right, thanks, Gina.
Suzanne?
Hi, I'm Suzanne Sherman, and I'm here to we're also part of a group that has become joined called Minneapolis Power and Light. And we are very excited about what Naomi and Olia are doing today, because we have upon us a climate emergency, and I'm very excited to be part of their plan, and I support this climate emergency.
Can I just clarify, Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light?
Oh, there we go. A little more context. Thank you, Susan. Anyone else? All right, go ahead.
CCLEP coordinator? CCLEP coordinator?
That's you.
That's you. Oh,
Unmute.
there you go.
Hi. Sorry. Hi, my name's Kat. I'm the new C Club coordinator, and I just wanted to, on behalf of our C Club team, I wanted to make sure that we were showing our full support for this climate emergency, and want to help as much as we can. And this is really important work that these girls have been doing, and I'm really happy that they moved forward to do this, and I'm happy to be here in full support.
Thanks, Kat. Anyone else?
Carol? Carol, you're
gotta-
muted. You'll have to
gotta
unmute
unmute.
yourself.
All
There you
right.
go.
Is that better?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Yep, Carol Winter, Grand Marais. I'm also a member of Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light. And I support the declaration of a climate emergency. We're already there, and the changes that we're seeing are going to accelerate. They're not going to go in a linear fashion. They're already accelerating. So we need to get cracking on doing what we can to mitigate the effects that we're already seeing. Thanks.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else? Over here. All right, come on up to we've got a little spot there. You can identify yourself on the microphone and go for it.
So are we done with Zoom participants then?
I think we're not quite done. but
Okay.
We're bouncing
All
around
right,
a little bit.
we're just back and forth.
Well, I'm Pastor Enold Imvir. I'm the minister of the First Congregational Church, and our church discusses this often, and we are part of the growing group of Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light with other churches and other people of faith in our community, and as I said in their editorial, it's here, it's happening, and it's an all hands on deck. We need not just the city, the county, we need the state, the nation, and any organization and any person to be working on this. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
If anyone else on the Google Hangout would like to talk, I can't see you, so feel free to just unmute yourself and jump in.
There's two more.
Sounds like somebody.
Oh, there we go.
Ann Russ?
Since you're not overwhelmed with speakers, I will just add my voice. I'm Ann Russ, retired teacher, and I want to applaud these students for taking the initiative and putting their passion to work. We're passing this earth on to this next generation, and we need to do all we can to support the earth and to support this younger generation, and I do so.
Thank you, Ann. Thanks, Ann. We saw a chat message coming from Angela Robinson there as well. Anyone else?
Donna?
There we go, Donna.
My name is Donna Lumpy, and Florida is here with me too. I've lived here since the mid-50s, a few years off in California, but we've seen it. When I went to school, and we're talking back in the old days, 35 below was nothing. Now, if we get 35 below wind chill, it's a big deal. We haven't seen the extreme growth. We haven't seen the extreme heat that we've got. This is really cool. And boy, do I support you done an incredible job. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. I think that's literally everyone who's on the screen. Yeah, so is that,
Yep.
that's everybody? All right, you
Okay.
guys are all good here?
Oh, Beth's for later, right?
Yep, Beth is on the agenda, so hi Beth.
Oh, later, but not now, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
unless she wants to speak for open forum,
I
but
just
I
wanted to
think
make
we're
sure
done.
I was trying to see who it all was. Okay.
If
Okay.
if no one else is going to speak, I'd ask all of you to move over to our YouTube channel just so we can get a little more audio control of this.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Thank you very much for signing in. It's good to know that this technology works for doing this. Wonderful. Thank you again. All right, we'll close the open forum with that and move on to the consent agenda. Like I said before, typical 3 items. It sounds like you want to add, is that something to add, or is it something that you can do in your council staff report?
No, because this came to all of us, that email on the mask. Did you see that?
Oh, the mask mandate?
Yeah, so I assume that's something more of an agenda item than me an update.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly put that on the
Just-
agenda. I was planning on talking about that for my staff report, but it, because I did a little bit of looking around about the precedent for doing something like that. But if you want to add that to the agenda, we can add it to the bottom of the agenda.
However, just so we need
Cover
to
it.
respond and we should all talk as a group or whatever. So
Yeah, I
just we
mean-
handle it.
Yeah, let's,
Okay.
I'll do that. Let's bring that up in council staff reports.
Okay.
And then we'll be good on that. All right, so with that conversation, what do we have for consent agenda? Typical 3 items, as I said before. Is there a motion for that?
I would still move again.
There it is. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, so we are going to move on to a continuation of conversation from the last meeting that we were on for Ordinance 2022-01. In the memo for this conversation, Mike broke down some options. I'll let you go through those options, Mike, and then we can dive back into the conversation on it. Or Beth, one of you two.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yep.
You tabled this at your last meeting, and I think that it probably hasn't really been a lot of time and opportunity for more thought on what you want to do with it. So I wonder if you don't want to just take one of these suggested intermediary steps that could either just end the conversation or move it to a more appropriate place right now. So you can always just take action on the ordinance as it was presented and vote and have it go up or down, and if it fails, then that can be the end of it, or we can move on and refer it. You could also modify the ordinance. There were concerns brought up at the last meeting that you talked about, and if anybody has any ideas of ways you'd like to modify it that would address those concerns, you could certainly bring those up and discuss them. You could refer it back to the Planning Commission for conversation to try and deal with the concerns that you brought up at your last meeting, although, in my opinion, they really already talked about all those things at the Planning Commission level, so I don't know that you should expect that to necessarily result in a change. Or you can ask the EDA to reconsider the request. If you're going to do that, I guess I would still recommend that you take action on the ordinance, one way or the other. But it seems like there might be some conversation that needs to occur at the EDA board level, particularly considering, Anton, your concerns, since you're our representative on the EDA board, that maybe you get a chance to talk to your fellow board members about those concerns. So those are my thoughts on it.
Beth, do you have anything to add?
I think I pretty much echo what Mike said. He was a little cut out at first, so I'm just gonna not. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
you're clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I just with the conversations that I have had and with kind of testing the waters here, I think that we really do need to bring this back to the EDA board to get some direction, especially since some of the variables have changed, and since some of these questions that are being brought up are the same questions over and over, and we need to find a really good answer to give to the council so that they can make this decision. So I'd like to bring this back to the EDA board and put it on the February agenda, and see what we can get from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. What does council think about that? That's basically would be, taking it off of our agenda for a little while until the revisions or the reconsiderations from the EDA board would come through.
We sure would appreciate the opportunity to be reconsidered for it once we have the time to reevaluate it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if it goes back to EDA, then does it go to the planning commission before it comes to us?
I'd recommend that you do that. If the EDA board decides to modify the request, then it's only fair that we give all the folks that we notified of the public hearing a chance to know about those changes and go through the public hearing process again.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Would we need to make any sort of list or written piece to say here are the particulars that we are wondering about or thinking through, as opposed to just sending it back to them in general, or is that already taken into account?
I can take that back.
Okay.
Your conversation, of course, was recorded and is available for any of their board members' review. And I think that, yeah, Anton can probably just put a pretty succinct bullet point list together of the bigger issues.
I think there's a couple things, I thought of since then that we didn't talk about in it, so I would like to make sure we have a pretty full list.
I would say
so-
probably
Okay.
communicate those directly to Beth instead of communicating it to Anton,
Okay.
just to avoid complications of open meetings.
Yeah,
situation.
alrighty.
You could also just bring them up right now.
There you go. I mean, if you're prepared to do that.
I have a couple, but I just soon, not that I can't send it to everybody or whatever when I get done, but I'll just write it up and make sure it gets there and copy everyone. Is that okay?
If you send it to me, I'll make sure everybody gets it.
Okay, so but that's no violation to.
No, if it's distributed from.
Well, it's getting into, gray areas where,
it's not a back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's going there anyways.
And it's really, you'll get a chance to talk about them in a public forum in the future. But
Yeah, okay.
this would be the best place to bring them up.
Just in case, or maybe that's a deal where do we all need to kind of make sure? If anyone else has put some,
Well, if,
you know what I mean?
if I bring, I think it was mostly you and I that were discussing things that, like the other points, maybe not brought up as written.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
because if we make any changes at the EDA level, it first has to go to the planning commission, which then is, I'm on the planning commission now, Mike's on the planning commission. So we'd have the opportunity to discuss it with that board, right? And then we still, before we bring it back here, you'd have the opportunity in this setting
Yeah.
to be able to, in case, if you pass information on to Beth and Mike, and I miss something from the meeting last time, right, to try and clarify language, there'd be that opportunity still again.
Yeah, I just was thinking mostly wouldn't want something to get all the way back up here before it was asked to be a consideration, make sure everything we can think of now, all of us gets to Beth right now.
So that it can all be considered
Yeah.
from the very beginning instead of being thrown in
Yeah.
a little bit at a time.
Mm-hmm,
Yep,
that's
I get
all.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So
Thank
Beth,
you.
that sounds good. Thank you. We'll be contacting you with lists of things to think about, I guess.
Okay, I'll watch for that. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thanks, Beth.
Okay. So the next thing on our agenda, resolution 2022-01. So I'll do a little bit of a brief introduction on this, and then turn it over to the ladies out there. So this, I don't know if you guys saw there's an article in the Star Tribune on this
There are two.
initiative. There's a couple, yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
couple.
One was on St. Paul doing it, and one was on the greater effort for 16 cities and
Yeah.
counties to
One's
take
an
this
ordinance.
on. did I skip something again?
No.
You're good.
Okay, I'm all over the place tonight, sorry.
Point of
You're doing great.
clarification, we got it.
You got it? Okay, good. Whew. So I would just like to set a bit of a context to operate for this declaration. This is not something to say that we're not doing enough. This is not something to say that we need to actively go out and do more. We already have our climate action plan. That is our guiding document for our efforts moving through our climate resilience plan. So what this does do is this puts in words what has been happening climatically in our region and how this has impacted not just our municipal structure, our municipal government, but also the people who live in our area, and how this has been impacting and is projected to continue impacting people who live in our area, and that could potentially threaten and will threaten the way that we do our life here, the way that we live here. So some people talk about how the farther north you get, the more the climate is changing, the more that those climatic ecosystems are impacted by minor changes in temperature. So I don't think it really is, it isn't that out of the question to say that we are at risk of losing a bit of our heritage for this. And the irony of this is that when you look at the floods that we've had and the damage that the floods have done, flooding the basement of the historical society, like this actually comes a little bit more true to words here when you actually look at the impact of the climatic fluctuations that we've had. So I hope that you've had a chance to read through it. There is a lot of information in here. This is a very similar declaration to what the 16 other cities in the state have declared. However, it has been modified for Grand Marais. It has been modified to include our efforts that we've already done for our climate action plan, and also specific changes that have happened in our region here. So Lake Superior levels, the fires and the droughts, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's my introduction for it. I will turn it over to the ladies. I guess they have a little presentation to summarize as well. I hope that I didn't say in less eloquent terms what they were planning on already saying.
Did
But
you
guys
just
can come
steal
up.
their thunder?
I hope not. I didn't think so. I don't think that there's much.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
No, they've got plenty of thunder. All right, so come on up, introduce yourselves. I believe that Patrick is going to plug in a presentation for them, and then we should be ready to roll.
I asked Olia to join the meeting.
Okay.
Because if we don't and present to the meeting, otherwise we'll lose contact with everybody.
Gotcha.
So
then they'll just share screen.
yeah.
Got it. Look at that. Technology. You guys want another chair?
Hello, and thank you for taking time to address this tonight. We don't have forever, not to act, not to live, not to slowly combat the climate crisis. We must have decisive, immediate action. We must declare a climate emergency. This summer, as glowing sparks and ash drifted across Cook County, we realized what it is like to face the consequences of our past actions. As fires drew closer, the drought grew longer, and the winds persisted, I stood by my window, gazing out at the tree-lined horizon, with tears rolling down my face. I was trying to write my evacuation plan, the list of things I would save from a fire, but besides my animals, I realized what I wanted to save was the earth beneath my feet, the woods and trails around my house, and the very trees and wooded shorelines of the boundary waters that were burning. I came to understand that the trees and portages in the Quetico that I had traversed 3 years before were gone. The jack pine at the campsite on Lone Gull Lake that I had swung from was now a charred stump. These lakes and trails, the the wizened cedars that had watched so many paddlers go by, are only preserved in memories. It was a harsh reality, and I know I was not alone.
We have to look at the trends to see that the Earth is warming. We can't just look out our window at the blizzard and snow-covered landscape. That is only a representation of today. By the time that there is no winter in Grand Marais, it will be far too late. We can't ignore the unprecedented catastrophic fires and call them natural. We must look at the trends over the past decades. And the trends show the facts. That Grand Marais' weather is becoming erratic, more dangerous, that Minnesota and Grand Marais haven't come close to making a dent in their goals, that our planet is only 0.4 degrees away from an absolute catastrophe, a raging crisis snowballing into heat, drought, cold, and hurricanes. Which is to say, not even enough snow for a snowball. This resolution shows the facts. It's time to declare a climate emergency.
This resolution, this emergency, is bigger than a piece of paper, bigger than Grand Marais, bigger than Cook County. This emergency is part of a statewide climate initiative. Local governments of all sizes and in all regions of Minnesota are joining us in this effort, calling for immediate action at all levels of government to address the climate crisis. By acting simultaneously, this community of communities expects to amplify their impact, speaking together to urge local, state, and federal action. A single voice isn't enough. A single resolution from a single city is not enough. It's essential, but it's only when everyone raises their voices and joins forces that we can truly change the course we're on.
And it's about time, too. It's impacting Minnesota now. Unanticipated occurrences of drought, higher annual temperatures, and sustained heat waves, dangerous air quality, repeated incidences of 100-year floods, and forest fires of unprecedented size are all happening now in Minnesota.
And the community is behind this resolution. Naomi and I made an online petition in support of this plan. We collected 83 signatures in about 2 weeks. Comments left on our petition include the following. Thank you. Keep up the great fight. Implementing the existing Grand Marais Climate Action Plan and supporting sustainability efforts are first important responses, without further delay. Go for it. We are experiencing potentially irreversible global warming, as evident in temperature metrics, global ice melt, exaggerated weather events, and threats to biological habitats. Another comment. As landscapers, we have seen more and more plants and insect infestations moving north, which are hard to control and our natives are not equipped to combat. Many native trees and shrubs are also more susceptible to disease.
Over 2,000 jurisdictions in 34 countries have declared a climate emergency, including 3 leaders in Minnesota, Crystal Bay Township and Minneapolis in 2019, and Duluth earlier this year. 15 more Minnesota cities declared a climate emergency just 2 days ago. It's time to join their ranks. It's time to declare a climate emergency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I'd also like to point out that a big part of bringing this forward is to gather the attention of the state and federal legislators, so that we have the ability to start those conversations again, to have conversations with a different level of severity, saying, hey, this is actually impacting us. And I think that this is to add on to what they're saying, I think that this is an important thing for us to do in conjunction with our climate action plan, to identify the severity of this, like as it has been in the past, and what we want to plan for in the future. This is happening. You know, we can't really argue with the stats that this is happening. Things are getting more erratic, and I think it's time for us to actually address the cause instead of look at the symptoms, and have those symptoms be things that we react to. If we have the ability to get ahead of this, declare this, it gives us a platform with which to continue the conversation at higher levels, and also to be more prepared when these, for lack of a better term, disasters happen. So that's what I have to say about it. If anybody has any questions or motions or anything.
Thank you, guys. Have you presented to the county? Has the county, is it a, have you gone to the Cook County Board and done the same thing and same ask?
We're working on it. They were unable to get it going on such a short timeline.
Sure.
So we're currently working on the draft of their resolution, and we're hopefully going to be bringing it to the February board meeting.
Awesome.
Yep. It was, I believe that Chairman, is he called Chairman? Chairman Mills was on the.
Is he the new chairman?
No, Ann is.
Ann Sullivan.
Oh, Ann is this year. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
He's probably good with that. So anyway, Commissioner Mills was in on the emails that started this this conversation. So I do believe that the county is right behind us. So.
Well, if we want to keep making discussion, I'd make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-01 declaring a climate emergency in Grand Marais.
All right, I'll second that. Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just a question. This isn't page number.
I saw that there's one part in there that needs to be edited.
Oh, okay.
Maybe two.
Well, it's just a question under toward the bottom where it says further resolved and mentions positions.
Tracy, can you?
Position city with shovel-ready plans. That was too many S's and C's to spit out. Are there some projects already identified? This is just a question, or you're just setting it out there to work toward that?
This is saying that this is one of the things that we'll focus on.
Yeah, to get rid.
I do believe that what we have been working on as far as the climate action plan fits this.
Into that.
Fits into that beautifully.
Okay.
Yep. Any other discussion? Hearing none? All
So
in
the
favor?
two spots that I was going to ask for clarification, you've got an alternate title. So you want to keep that or not keep that?
I don't think so. I think that the regular title is good. That alternate title was one that came from the other cities that have been declaring this together. And I wanted to leave it in there just so that we had the ability to discuss that. So.
And then your first further resolved, your second bullet point, you've got in brackets a reference to a pull-down menu on a link.
Yep, so we can just take that out.
I think, yeah, just take it out or
That was the
actually
part
tell
that
me
I-
which one of those you want to put in there.
Yeah, that was the part that I said we needed to edit, so I guess that one.
Does that work for
So
people?
we'll remove the alternative title, and then we take out that little bit in the be it further resolved. But otherwise, I think I got everything when I wrote it up. Okay.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
What's the exact thrust of this?
As far as,
As if the state gave Grand Marais $5 million tomorrow, what are you going to do with it as far as climate change is concerned for the city of Grand Marais?
we look at the climate action plan, the things that we've identified that would build resilience in our community, and we jump into those projects. That's probably what I would say. That's a very simple answer to it. I think that a larger question or a larger answer for that would have to be done by us taking a look at what are the biggest concerns that we have.
For our city, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking at?
Mhm. And what are the best ways to invest that to reach the goals that we have. So I don't think there's a set list of things that we can do with that money, but I think there's a lot of opportunities if that money existed. The money's not going to exist unless we do stuff like this so that we can get the message out there.
Well, I understand that,
Say-
but I'm not sold on this simply because I lived in this community my whole entire life. So did my parents, so did their parents. And I honestly feel that I don't think our community is in a climate crisis.
I think there may be climate crises throughout our United States, especially throughout other countries like China, who have a lot more pollution than the United States. But as far as you want to argue forest fires, we had forest fires many, many years ago. And a lot of these fires have been becoming more intense because of the creation of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area in 1978, where we don't manage our forests anymore. They become tinder boxes ready to burn. And when we have dry summers like we did last summer, and snow seasons like we did last winter where we didn't have any snow, which creates a dry climate for the summer, you know, we've created these problems ourselves by not maintaining things. That's my personal opinion on some things. I'm not just focusing on a narrow thing, I'm focusing on everything that's going on. But, you know, I'm not against declaring problems that are going on throughout our world, but I'm not sold on selling Grand Marais as a climate crisis city. I don't like the title of this. That's my problem with this. If you want to fit this in with our climate action plan, that's fine, but I'm not sold on the title.
I think, so.
That's where I'm at with
in
it.
response to what you're saying, I appreciate what you're saying. You know, and I totally agree with you that the management decisions that we've made as a country, in some ways, are exasperating the situation, the emergency that we're facing. But that doesn't take away the fact that is a man-made emergency. You know, that is still something that we have to face, that is coming right straight down the pike, and that is something that will impact our community. So when we're looking at declaring an emergency in Grand Marais, you know, we just spent 1.5 years in an emergency for COVID because we weren't able to operate in a normal way. And I see that is that is really a possibility. That's what's coming with drought. The question is, how much more does the lake level have to drop before we start having trouble with our wastewater and our drinking water? You know, like these are all concerns that I have. Like, what about impacts to Lake Superior's water quality that come from crazy, super intense rain events that push tons of sediment and other garbage into the lake? You know, these are all things that come to mind when I look at declaring a climate emergency. And I believe I haven't lived here for 3-4 generations, but in the time that I've lived here, from being a Boundary Waters guy,
that I can tell.
Right?
Really,
I mean,
Tracy.
Tracy's been here.
Wait a minute, not that old.
But it's in the time that I've been here, I've been able to notice some frightening patterns that lead me to believe that preparations for what's coming in the future is something that we, as a council, frugally should be looking at. So, not to discount what you're saying, I actually think that fits into what we're saying about declaring a climate emergency.
I maybe can, to your points about what would we do if all of a sudden, whether it was from this or in a combination of other cities declaring that, and then all of a sudden the state did say, here's this, right? Like, two things that I think of, we know that part of the solution to this is electrification and getting away from LP for one. And, we have, because we are a city and we have our municipal power, we have a PUC. If there was potential, if the money came from deed, say, to like update furnaces or something, to like change it to electric, there's this, just putting this on there, that's like one example. One other huge one, which, part of our wastewater treatment plant and all the efforts that we're trying to do there, part of it being regulation-wise on the things that we have to try and fit, but I also think we know, at least that's the way I remember it when Tom spoke to us at our department head meetings, just about what happens when water is, overrunning the system. And, so maybe that's another situation, right? Because we know whatever comes out of there goes right into the lake, which is the same place we get our drinking water. So, you know, I don't know if those are like shovel-ready projects right now, but those are things that like we've already been talking about, and our potential, you know, again, just adding our name or our voice to the group, to me seems like a good thing to do. I mean, I don't think we have to worry about sea level rise affecting like the shore of Lake Superior. I mean, in the sense of like if you lived out in the middle of the Pacific on an atoll where your whole country's going to disappear, right? We don't have it in that same sense, but I think we do have. I know that when we work on planting trees, I mean, that we're moving towards oak savanna. Like that's what the DNR recommends planting if we're doing reforestation, which is crazy to think about. So I don't know. I mean, I appreciate what you say, Craig, and
No, I understand all that.
And I don't think
I
that
also
you're-
did some research on record high temperatures for like Duluth, for example, and you know, I don't think a lot of you younger people understand, but in the early 1900s through about 1940s, those were some of the hottest summers ever recorded in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And that's almost 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can think about weather, you can think about climate change, you can think about cyclical patterns of weather, you can conform this into your thinking any way you want. It just doesn't fit my thinking. That's my problem with it, because I see too many things that can pop up and discredit a lot of stuff. I'm not discrediting what these guys are saying. I think it's very admirable that they come up and talk about this kind of stuff, but I think we've done some things wrong up here that is contributing to our problems. I also know that you can't control the weather, and it's, if you want to go back 100,000 years and start looking at weather patterns throughout the course of the history of the world, our temperatures have gone up and down 4 to 5 degrees and back down again through a course of 100,000 years. So, I mean, how do you talk about that and fit that into this thinking? So, I'm not, if this is about getting money and get your name on a list, maybe there'll be money available for certain things. The sewer water project, I don't think is climate driven. I think that's more of what we did in our street project to divert a lot more water to the plant now. So
yeah,
we have to worry about that instead of running it off into the streets below us. So that's just, I just question whether a label on Grand Marais needs to be emergency climate crisis for the city of Grand Marais. We go from the coolest little town in America to the nicest little town in America to now we have a climate crisis town in America. So that's my questioning. Maybe it should have a different name. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there for anybody to discuss or not discuss. It doesn't matter. I just thought I'd put it out there, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always the difficult part of these conversations, and I've had them in other instances and things you read, weather versus climate, and that's always hard to think through. They interrelate, but it's a really different concept to all that. And it's something I caught by accident. So all those years I did radio, I'd always like, what was the high today and what was the low today? And after a while, I remember going home and telling Pete, all that time when my mom was a little girl and through that Depression era time and whatever, those were some of the hottest temperatures recorded in Minnesota. And I thought, well, it kind of correlates to all of that and when all the other farming problems. And so there always are those patterns. I've read about others as well. But climate is different, but it's hard to sometimes keep that concept. I just hope that we find real actionable things we can do. I realize that this is also the purpose of letting other bigger people know that we care and we want to take a positive action. But I also always hope that we're not just pointing somewhere else, that we find things we can do here that will make a difference. And I think that's kind of what Craig's saying too. it's both. And I think that's probably what all of you are hoping for as well. It's something, you know, that makes a difference for this community. Yeah.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second. I guess all in favor of resolution 2022-01, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries them. So we will be publishing that, and we might not see much action on that, but I do believe that the 16 cities that are that signed on are going to be doing a presentation of some sort at the Capitol at some point. So that is as vague as I can be, but I do believe that that's one of the goals of this is to have an audience with the state Senate and House. So.
Can I just ask, Craig, I didn't hear what you voted on that.
I really didn't say anything.
Okay, well, I mean, how do you want us to mark your vote in the minutes?
You can say yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for a discussion on that. That's great. Thank you for showing up. Appreciate that. We're going to move right along. We're going to move on to council and staff reports. Yeah, come and grab your computer. So, Craig, do you have anything for a report?
No, I don't.
Hey, did you get the,
Meeting it.
for the Parks and Trails?
I didn't get a hold of you.
They canceled it anyways.
Huh?
They canceled it anyways.
Okay. I'll get
He
it.
got something that came up, so.
Okay.
Okay. If you remember anything, just feel free to interrupt Anton. Anton, what do you have?
I haven't had anything since our last meeting, so.
Okay. Tracy?
We had Monday night, an Old Shore Road Committee meeting. Not a whole lot to update. There's very quiet down there as far as any notable activity. The last call to the sheriff's office was back in November, and that was a trespassing call, but other than that, nothing. And as you would expect, this time of year it's kind of quiet down there, so everything looks good with garbage and whatever. The next meeting we'll have is in March, I believe, and really their last overall meeting is supposed to be toward the end of April. Let's see what else. And they just noted, I hope I have the right date, but the George Morrison stamp celebration and unveiling and whatnot will be April 29th.
Oh, cool.
So there was a couple comments about the correct date, and I believe you got that's it. And there'll probably be something at the church as part of it, which is another reason why it came up in conversation.
Cool.
So, yeah, one last thing. What I didn't realize is apparently the county has a small strip of land with all of that, and they won't make or decide or take any action until they know what happens if the band gets that transferred, and then they'll, act accordingly.
Yep.
Okay.
Very cool. So for me, there was a board meeting for the North House Folk School. They have been working on fundraising for their campus expansion, and it looks like they will likely be able to start some construction this coming spring, which is pretty incredible, pretty exciting. They've been modifying their COVID policies here, there, and everywhere to adjust everything, and are really focused on making the entire campus Americans with Disabilities Act compliant. There's a lot of other stuff too, but those are some of the main pieces for that. I did sign up also there's a group that who's putting it together. It's ARDC is putting it together. Western Lake Superior Climate Resiliency Forum. I don't know if you saw the email about that or got that. I did sign up for that. It's a Zoom conference to talk about what cities on the western side of Lake Superior can do and how it's impacting us. So basically, a lot of the same stuff that we talked about tonight. It's going to be very interesting to hear about that.
I did sign up for that,
Okay.
especially
Oh, good.
since I'm back on the North Shore Management Board.
Perfect.
So,
Yep.
got it on
So
the
just you
schedule.
and me? Did anybody else sign up for that?
I couldn't go. I'm not good.
Okay, cool. That's good. We're good with 2. And one more, we'd have to declare it or make it a public meeting thing. I don't even know how that would work.
I don't think you could. I think you'd have to just
Have one person drop.
sit and watch.
Okay.
Which is kind of what you do anyways, right?
Yes, yeah.
That's just a,
And then as per the email that we all received, talking about instituting a mask mandate for the city, I asked around to some other mayors that I've got connection with too, and the discussion at Public Health about this is that there really isn't much of a purpose in declaring a mask mandate, because people that are going to do it are going to do it. People that aren't. I mean, it's kind of a cynical approach by a lot of the other municipalities that I've talked to, but they also are saying some pretty sensible things in that cities that or businesses that feel strongly about it have the ability to make their own statement, and be able to enforce that to their customers. And it's a bummer if we got to a point where we can't have that dialogue, or just understand that this is something that might be expected for the comfort of other people. But I understand the interest in it. I feel like it is absolutely necessary. I just don't know if it does any good for us to declare it. So I don't know what you guys all think about that.
well, if you didn't see it, I responded to him as soon as I saw it, just to make sure he got a response, and I don't know if anybody else did. And because I'm on the downtown business meeting group, I had to miss that meeting that they discussed it. They discussed it one earlier, but I called Jim Boyd back and got an update just to get a feel there. And the basic consensus of the businesses in the meeting was they would like to be able to do that, but it's very difficult between employees and customers to actually effectively do that. And then we kind of went through the list and just thought out loud, Jim and I, and there's been businesses here who have never taken away their mask mandate through all of this. There's some who have put it back in place. So I think those who feel they can or want to have done so. And then there's certain entities for which if I kind of am thinking more like concern around our community members, things like the post office, well, we don't have any jurisdiction over,
It's a federal
you know,
building.
yeah, and that's a place where you would see a lot of local people interacting. So I kind of thought through stuff like that too.
I think that I missed one of the points too that came up in my discussions with other mayors and such, that, and Chris can maybe weigh in here too, that declaring a mask mandate is not something that we can just do. I think that's something that falls under some kind of emergency power. So then we would have to, like, at least some of the guys I talked to said that they were really hesitant to open up that can of worms, because that would be an emergency declaration too, and without a declaration from the state, it's really tricky to have those things actually have any teeth or actually have any kind of power. So that's maybe I got bad advice, but that was what came up more than once in discussion. So I don't know, Chris, if you got anything to weigh in on that.
No, that's basically right, Mayor.
Okay,
In order for a statutory city to declare a mask mandate, we would have to do a local emergency declaration under Chapter 12 of state statutes to do that. And so, I mean, you could do it if that's what you wanted to do, but the concerns or the comments that have been raised so far, I think, are all relevant in terms of, enforcement and, what that means for the community and what is being done voluntarily currently. I mean, certainly, I think a statement by the council about people are encouraged to wear masks might be a good idea, but again, doing an actual mandate comes with a lot of other requirements.
Okay, well, I will gladly make that statement as part of my WTIP, interview for this meeting, and then continue to make that statement as often as I can. I do think that it's important to continue to wear masks for the well-being of our community, as can be seen by the case numbers in the past couple of weeks. Been pretty insane. So.
Well, and then just to also say it out loud, if you do something like this, the front end ends up being on your employees.
Mm-hmm.
And that's we already know that is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And probably not something people want to have play,
No, I mean, it was tough first time around. And there was a whole lot more compliance then, and yeah, no, that would be rough.
So, I think that making a statement saying, hey, let's just respect one another's safety is not out of the question.
Yeah. And a lot of places still have masks available, so people want to.
I was really impressed. I've been going to the YMCA every once in a while, starting to go again, and the compliance for people wearing masks there is really quite good. And, that's impressive. I'm in there huffing and puffing, working out, wearing a mask, but, it's resistance training, right? It's good for you.
Altitude training.
That's right.
CO2 dead.
CO2 deficits, yeah.
Carbon dioxide training. Carbon dioxide.
I mean, it's, yeah.
Well, 2 cities tonight dropped the mask mandate. One was Moorhead and another city I saw before I came to the meeting. I think that to do a mask mandate and do it right, the state's gonna have to declare it, I mean, seriously, because otherwise you have some businesses complying, not complying, and then employees are, like Tracy said, customers are for it or not for it, and it puts a lot of burden on the employees.
Yeah.
If it's mandated by the state, then we can all just sit back and go, hey, this is a state mandate, you gotta do it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a city thing, then we have to educate our visitors that come in here that we have it, or, they need to comply, and it's up to the businesses to teach them or train them, and some of them may not want to.
Right.
We're faced with that burden, and it's always, after 2 years of this, it's been kind of, and then tell somebody to wear a mask after they've gotten their 3rd shot, it's like, well, why did I get my shot then?
Well, yeah. The crazy thing about that is that I know so many people that have all 3 shots and then got it this last week. But yeah,
I know that.
I get it. I get what you're saying. I don't disagree.
Try to enforce it. It's going to be
real hard.
Real hard, and then it just finger pointing businesses, or finger pointing at those other people, and then it just starts. It's a negative atmosphere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
But I think recommending to wear a mask, I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
us making a declaration like that to please listen to the place you're going into. If they ask you to, then
I mean, there's probably a more formal way for us to do that other than
Please
just say it
comply.
right here, but I mean, I don't know if we necessarily need to.
I don't know that a more formal way is more effective.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Is today the 26th?
It is.
All in on.
Yeah.
Oh, missed it then. The chamber had a meeting, I think Zoom meeting today to talk about, they had Grace,
Grenada.
thank you, to talk about all of that with businesses and how to handle things or whatever, but now that's, like, I'm too late to spread that news.
Okay, so we'll keep spreading the news to, be a good neighbor and wear a mask if the, wear a mask. I don't have anything else. Moving on to you. Good, you guys have anything?
Just a quick update. We need board members. Our previous library board member that you appointed last meeting intended to serve on the Library Friends Board, and so is not going to serve on the library board.
Nope.
That's a different board, yeah?
So We have 2 openings on the Utilities Commission, 1 opening on the Planning Commission, 1 opening on the Park Board, 1 opening on the Library Board. We don't have a board with no openings other than the City Council.
Hey, guys.
And we really need a Utilities Commissioner. Craig is flying solo.
Holding it down.
We can't have 2 city councilors on the Utilities Commission.
So we can have 2 on the planning, we all could be on the planning.
And we do have some Planning Commission business. We're not going to have meetings in February for either of those boards because we don't have any current business. But we've got some upcoming Planning Commission business. As a matter of fact, at this point, I'm anticipating a pretty busy summer with projects happening. And there's 2 or 3 potential applications that'll be in front of the Planning Commission for their March meeting. And we'll also have some results of the housing in the CI zone work that the Planning Commission asked for at the end of last year. So there's going to be a lot coming up. And with the Utilities Commission, there's also a lot coming up. Tom Nelson's told us that he's a short timer, and we need to start talking about what that's going to be, what that means for us. We also have some business that I think we want to try and at least get going pretty quickly while he's still here in terms of the wastewater treatment plant. And he has some projects for the water system as well that he'd like us to look at. So there's business in front of us that we want to get started on. If there's somebody that can help, we can sure use it, and we'll put them to work.
Okay, what a lovely opportunity as a new member of our community to get involved, to learn and contribute. How's
That's
that?
right.
There's many of you out there, I'm sure.
And if you've got strong feelings about a climate action plan one way or the other, just remember that's the board where it all really started. So this, serving on boards is how things get done around here.
Anything else? We're going to move to the next item on our agenda. This agenda item for this portion of the regular meeting is to develop or consider offers or counter offers for the sale of city-owned real estate located at 1800 West Highway 61. This portion of the properly noticed regular meeting of the council of the city of Grand Marais will be closed pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 3C. I will now entertain a motion for the closing of the meeting. Anybody?
So moved.
The motion, is there a second? Second. Motion and a second, any further discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right, so we're going to take a second to shut everything off. And,
Lock the door.
and then we can